Welcome to Empath Revolution, where sensitive souls are gathering to activate their cosmic mission and embrace their role in helping humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness. I'm your host, Stephanie Redfeather, author of the award-winning international best-selling book, The Evolutionary Empath and Empath Activation Cards. And in this interview, my special guest is Dianna Leeder. Dianna has spent the last 4 decades helping women find and use their voices. She's an award-winning author, trainer of Find Your Voice healers, and an intuitive coach and mentor to women who are done being quiet. Dianna is fulfilling her mission to support the healing of people and the planet through soul connection group programs for women and men. She believes the use of voice to express our true selves is the answer to a blissful, contented life, and that by learning to manage our relationships with ourselves, we can consciously and intentionally manage our own happy. And today she is going to talk to us about the title of her topic is Don't Hide from Yourself or Your Gift. You were chosen to heal the planet. Amen. Welcome, Dianna.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm really honored to be here and honored to be invited. That was awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Yes, I am too. And I know that there are so many empaths out there that have a common experience of not, we talk about not being able to use your voice, but I think it starts first with identifying your voice. You got to figure out who's in here first and foremost. And as empaths, it's so easy for us to be other identified because we're such sponges that it takes time to even figure out who we are, to even listen to ourselves, to figure out what we have to say. What is your experience of that?
I think that that's completely accurate. I think that we need to figure out who we are. That's really the first step, actually, in finding and then using your voice, because they're really two separate processes. But that is the first step in finding your voice, is to understand who you are deeply. And we can get into this a little bit more later too, but the block to doing that, of course, is all the things that are coming at us that make us look outside of ourselves instead of inside.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I'd love to hear just a little bit about your own personal journey, whatever pieces feel relevant, because I think that'll be helpful for those listening to, I'm sure they'll be able to identify themselves in your story.
Yeah, of course. An open book. It would have been about maybe 15 years ago now. I had been sailing along doing voice work in different ways. So, through consulting and always with women's groups, always with issues that were important to women, that they expressing in expressing their needs and getting those needs met. So it was a little bit different than the kind of direct stuff I'm doing now, but I did that for a long time until I was faced with my own voice challenge, until I was kind of given that little spiritual wake-up call that, that says, hello, it's time for you to do your work now. So, and I'm so grateful that that happened, because it just changed my life, clearly. So I thought everything was fine. And one day my husband just said, I'm not happy. So for me, it was like, wait, hang on. What happened? Everything was fine. And as it, without getting into the details, at the end of it all, he was just doing his own, he had his own nudges, and he was doing his own growth stuff. And we, we're still together now. We've been married for over 40 years. But he, him doing his was the catalyst for me doing mine. I was left without my safety net. I was left without the person who would do things with and for me and hear me. But I was also left without that outer place to look for my own validation, look for what was real for me. So I was forced, and I'll say that in a very, I mean, that's a harsh word, but it's how it was. I was really forced to look inside. I had to do that work in order to survive, in order to challenge, myself, for him to challenge himself, and for us to challenge one another in the relationship.
Right.
So it was tough. It was really tough, but it was also probably the most healing work I've ever done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I hear that. And I totally understand about the forcing. I like to think of it as, your soul is inviting you, but it's kind of like, if you don't say yes, it's going to keep getting a little harder and a little harder to, and eventually,
Yeah.
right, I surrender.
Yeah, exactly. And surrender is such a great word when we're talking about voice. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to describe, so this is one of those phrases where it's like, we need to learn to use our voice, and we all go, and we shake our head. But I want to hear from you, because this is your area of expertise. Give us these detailed specifics. What does it mean to use your voice?
Right. Okay. Well, let me begin with why we should be using our voice, other than just for our own soul's purpose. I really do believe that our soul is here to guide us, and that they know exactly what we need, want, and desire, even when we don't. So, it's my understanding that we are all here on this planet to be happy, to live an exceptional life. We're not meant to be fearful, or to say no to things that make us happy, no to things that make us ecstatic and laugh and have fun. That's not what we're here for. We are here to keep our vibration high by having experiences that will bring it up for us and help us maintain it. And sometimes that is not easy to do, because of all the social influences that come in and kind of pull the rug out from underneath us. But it's our opportunity to maintain our vibration, which is also, in my understanding, is necessary. It's our role. We need to do this. We need to keep our vibration up, because when we keep our vibration up, not only do we feel good, people around us feel good, right? The expansiveness of that, the world feels good, the planet feels good. It can be never ending. So it's really important, and we have to take that into account, that we have a role here, and we're not meant to be wallowing in the corner somewhere and hurting. We are meant to heal and be able to express ourselves. So, and the connection with voice, where all that is concerned, is that in order to really maintain our vibration, we need to be able to express ourselves. If we don't express what we want and need and desire, we're not getting it. It's kind of that simple. It won't come to us. It doesn't just, those things don't just fall in our lap. And if they do, we have to wonder why. Is it someone else doing this for us instead of us taking responsibility for it? It's things like that will come to us as well as we need them, really, as we need to look at them. So now where was I? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well, something I just thought of is, the answer is always going to be no if you don't ask. If you don't.
Yes. It's always going to be no, or it won't even get answered. Because sometimes we say no to ourselves before it even gets out. Sometimes it's not even about, I want this in my relationship, or I don't want that job, I want this kind of work, or I want to experience this. Sometimes before we even get there, we're saying, I can't have that. I can't do that. I don't deserve that. I'm not worthy of that. All that kind of stuff comes in. So we have to take a look at both of those things, because that's kind of the underlying reason why we don't engage our voices, right? We just stay with that outer influence that we think is making us safe by paying attention to it. You know, if I do what they want,
Yes.
and sometimes it's not even that conscious, you know,
yeah.
and not conscious in a spiritual way, for sure. But sometimes it's just, oh, well, I'm here to do what other people need me to do. As women, we all fall into that one. So I need to do that so that I can be loved.
Right. Yeah, and as you're speaking, what also comes to me is, you know, it's kind of the syndrome of the pain or suffering that you know is better than the pain or suffering that you don't know.
Yeah.
And so when, you know, what a word we haven't said yet, but I think is associated with using your voice is risk. We take a risk and put ourselves out there, and then we risk being disappointed and sometimes, or disappointing others. And so sometimes it's easier to just keep telling ourselves no and to stay quiet because we at least know what that world looks like and we know how to operate within that space.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Sometimes we can't even see that that's what we're doing, but that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah. It's avoiding, it's hiding. Yeah, lots of different things. And it is safe. For us, it feels safe. But we don't get, when we're living in that kind of fear and responsive relationship with people like that, our vibration doesn't stay high. We're not maintaining our vibration. It's kind of in flux with, you know, whatever is happening in that moment. And usually we're not in control of what's happening in that moment.
Yeah, and you know, you were talking about that sort of universal, you didn't say two before to the forehead, but kind of the, you know, same sort of idea, cosmic two before to the forehead when you're, when the universe is like, hey, time for you to do a 90-degree or a 180 or something. And, you know, in that space of getting, you know, kind of your butt handed to you by the universe. Another way I think of that is that we can no longer sustain the dissonance between who we're being and who our soul is calling us to be. And so the universe helps by going thwack, you know, but really it's almost an internal process that maybe we don't even recognize or we can't put a name to, but oftentimes, you know, what I've seen with many clients and students is something comes to a head, right? There's a crisis, a chaotic thing, something out of the blue happens that honestly we drew to us to help us. In this case, if we're talking about voice, to learn to listen to and use our voice and express ourselves more authentically. Do you find that to be?
I certainly do. I certainly do. I think that it's, yeah, that kind of spiritual hit. That's that's what I call it, that we will get when we least expect it. And it will come. You know, we can't live in that kind of dissonance as you call it, and that's a good word for it. We can't live there forever. We know we're not meant to live there forever. We're here on this planet with a role, especially empaths.
Yes.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say especially, but including empaths.
Yes. Well, and that we have, you know, the way at least what has become clear to me, what my truth and my perspective is that empaths are here to help humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness, right? So specifically for empaths, finding our voice and using it is so critical because we might have a little further to travel to get to that point just because of what we've had to do in our lives to cope and to manage our sensitivities, which often means just shoving it so far underground and denying it and pretending it's not there, that we got to go do the inner excavation work first, you know, to then bring it outside.
Yes, absolutely. You know, as I was thinking about this conversation, I was thinking about things that would be really helpful for empaths. And as I was kind of going through the process, I realized that a lot of the things about voice are consistent for anybody, but not everybody is an empath, not everybody is a sensitive. And I think we have to recognize that, because it adds an additional layer of work that we need to do to manage our energy, you know, to be able to live high vibe. So we're not kind of, as I have described it, as, you know, pulling, you know, jumping into bed and pulling up the covers and covering up our head because it just feels so painful. So yeah, I think we certainly have some commonalities with the rest of the world, but there is that, as you said, we have to go a little farther as empaths to allow ourselves to be who we are, to really be true to ourselves. And that means caring for ourselves as well and managing that energy.
Yeah. So why is it so important? I mean, you know, we both know the answer to this, but it's important to give voice to it and talk about it. Why is it so important for empaths to use their voices?
It's important because, and you touched on this a few minutes ago, it's important because as empaths, we get hit with all kinds of energy that often we don't even understand. You know, we don't know what's happening. You know, often I didn't identify as an empath for a very long time, you know, a very long time. My kids are empaths, and I can remember when they were children, and I didn't have a clue what was happening for these kids who would just, you know, cry whenever they saw anything. So I think that empaths are, I think we get judged. You know, I don't think the world understands what empathy is or being a sensitive soul is. So the work that we have to do is that much deeper, both to heal us, and by healing us and taking care of ourselves and our energy, then we really exude to the world that, you know, that we are here and we are healthy, and this is a good thing. You know, our empathy is a good thing. It's not, you know, it's not a curse, as I have heard so many women describe it as. It's not a curse, it's a gift. It's a huge gift. And I think it's an intentional gift.
Yes. Yes, I definitely believe that being an empath is a choice we made at a soul level. And, you know, there's a quote from the movie Moneyball that says, the first guy through the wall always gets bloodied. And collectively, right, for the last several decades, all of the empaths that are on the planet and the ones that are incarnating, we are the first ones through the wall. We are the ones getting bloodied because we didn't have the parents and teachers and mentors who recognized our sensitivities and knew how to guide us. And so you know, that I think that's another reason why it's so important to do the I'm going to call it our voice work, right? To do our voice work, because we are paving the way for the ones coming behind us.
Absolutely. And, you know, doing our voice work is because voice really is the ultimate in personal expression. You know, it's the clearest, the easiest way to express what we need, want, and desire. So that's super, super important, but it's not the only one. So, you know, expressing ourselves is not just saying yes or no verbally, but by allowing ourselves to engage in certain ways, allowing ourselves to manage our own energy, you know, allowing ourselves to freely have moments where we want to feel the emotion, and deciding what that's going to look like. You know, we don't have to, I always call human sauce is what I've been taught to call it. And I think it's such a great description. You know, we live from, other than as an infant, we live in the human sauce. And even when I say infant, I mean maybe like as soon as they're born, because I think it will affect us right after that. But we live in that human sauce, and that human sauce doesn't always bring us good things. You know, it teaches us to respond in certain ways that are not always self-serving for us. They're not always healing things for us. So in understanding those things and picking up those things, and I'm talking about things like your upbringing, you know, what you may have learned in your family of origin, what you may have carried forward from ancestors, you know, any trauma that you've experienced in this lifetime or past lifetimes, which I suppose is ancestral as well. So all that stuff is what we can carry. And if we don't take the time to understand that and do that deeper work, then it's really hard to choose ourselves. You know, so it's not like we have to start with a blank slate. But we do have to kind of dive in again, that deep dive, as you mentioned. We do have to dive in and recognize what our triggers are, you know, what our you know, how do we want to show up? You know, and how do we do that in a loving way? Because that's kind of the piece too that gets confused with voice. If I can just toss this in quick, people assume that using your voice is telling somebody, no, absolutely not, or being very gruff and, you know, and you know, I seriously see as many sad people as angry people. You know, it's not just about, oh, I can't use my voice and that really upsets me, that makes me sad. It's also, well, I'm ready to go after the guy. You know, I'm just ready to do that. Which, I mean, when we're wherever we are is wherever we are, but we have to recognize that that's not our natural operation. You know, we need to, and again, we need to look inside for this and understand ourselves and understand what would really resonate with us, what would really serve us to in having those kinds of conversations or in expressing ourselves to anyone around us.
Right.
So we don't just kind of barge in with, you know, 10 feet and say, absolutely not, you know,
Right.
although if it calls for that, then go for it. But you know, it has to come from us. It has to be part of our own authenticity. How we communicate has to be part of our own authenticity.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm thinking back to an experience I had with a client who, well, before I do that, I think there's a phenomenon that can happen when a person has held themselves back for so long, what they want to say, their truth, their anger, their whatever. And I liken it to, you know, when you put your thumb over the end of a hose, right? And the pressure backs up. And then when you finally take your thumb off, the water just comes squirting out at such high pressure. And so, you know, I have witnessed that a pattern for some people is when they start using their voice, it's like they swing to the other end because the only thing they know how to do, or there's just so much pressure backed up behind it, that they can only be harsh or, you know, in your face. And I had a client who, you know, she talked about, you know, being a hammer versus a feather, and she was kind of a hammer, and she had an experience where she was talking to one of her other mentors who showed up as a hammer, and all of a sudden she got this reflection of, oh my God, that's what I'm like. And it really helped her to start to pay more attention and to manage her energy, because, you know, using your voice doesn't mean you just get to verbally vomit upon whoever is. You still have to be responsible and do the work to run it through the filters and go, okay, I need to use my voice, but I don't want to hurt people or cause harm. So, you know, it's learning to allow those emotions to move through whatever, anger work, physical activity, dancing, singing, you know, working with a therapist, so that when you show up in those difficult conversations with people, you're expressing your truth without, you know, beating them over the head with it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what, I think that when we are kind of behind that, when we haven't done that kind of exploration yet, and we are still angry, we've had a lot of years where we didn't know to do that. We didn't know what else to do, I should say. That's where we were. That's all we knew. You know, when I think about my own life, did I have a great life? Yeah, for sure. Did I have lots of fun in my marriage before, you know, I found my voice? Yes, I did. It was not negative. In fact, I didn't even understand the extent of it until I really started to do my own work on it. So there's a lot of stuff that happens that just kind of shows us that, oh, look out there, look out there, look out there. When in fact, all those things, whether it's, about our values or just how we want to show up, they're not out there. They're totally in here. Yeah, and that on its own is a gift that we just really have to look inside. And I know that was one of the things when I was building, well, when I first started to do this work, and over the years, that has held strong and true the entire time. You need to start with understanding who you are, because everything about being voiceless takes away from who we are. It tells us to ignore who we are. So I'm grateful that you're doing this work too. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's especially when you were talking about, influences from past lives, right? So many of us have the experience of being an empath, working through our own stuff from this life, and also having lineage pieces, right, from our matrilineal or patrilineal lineage and past life stuff. And so it can be really easy under the pressure of all of that to just want to go, like you said, hide under the covers and, kind of suck your thumb and just rock back and forth. So, let's talk about that a little bit, how empaths hide from themselves and their gifts.
Yeah. Well, again, in one way, empaths are like everyone else. We all hide. We can, even if if we don't identify as empaths, we will hide, because that's the structure of not having a voice. That's just what we do. For empaths, they will hide, and I'll just use that same analogy. They will hide under the covers. I mean, the pain can be so, and the pain can be so intense, whether it's something that's coming for us or something that's happening to someone else. Excuse me. It doesn't matter. We're going to feel that, and we're going to take on whatever that energy is without considering what we can do to help ourselves through it or manage it, like, just basic energy management. I had a woman not that long ago who decided to end a relationship with her boyfriend, and she quite enjoyed this man, and but just simply did not see a future with him. He, on the other hand, was head over heels and was very, very, very hurt when she broke it off. So, here's me trying to be very quiet and very subtle about it, but I'm thinking, yeah, you go, girl, you see this for yourself, you understand and know from in here that this is not a relationship that is long-term for you. It's not going to work. And sometimes it's that simple, like, does it work? Does it not work? This just was not going to work. And yet she took on all this sadness, all the grief and upset that this other fellow had. And she was devastated, like absolutely immobilized by that. How could I do that? How could I let him suffer like that? How do I make him suffer? How did I make him suffer? All that kind of stuff that will pull us back. So I think and that's the difference, I think, with empaths, is that because we're feeling all that, we get pulled back all the time. Like, I don't know how many times in a session when she said, maybe I shouldn't have broken up with him. Maybe I shouldn't have, it's not fair that I'm doing this to him, so it's, and I mean, it all kind of comes back to choosing ourselves first, always. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people to understand, even, especially women, but coming back to ourselves always and doing that test. Does it work? Does it not work? Does it resonate? Does it not resonate? And making conscious choices. Most empaths in the beginning, without doing any of that work, aren't making conscious choices. They're making choices from the pain. They're making choices from the fear. And that just doesn't heal us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly how unconscious living works, right? the strongest influences are what inform the decisions. And when you can finally come into consciousness and awareness and recognize what's happening, then you can reclaim the power of choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is a power, a superpower. Yeah. When women figure that out, when they realize that there is a different way, that they really don't have to live with that pain. They don't have to stay in that pain. Then it's a phenomenal, and this. I'm not telling you anything new. It's phenomenal to watch them and to see how quickly they grow, and how happy they can make themselves by taking responsibility for them.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to take a moment to expand, because I know your work is focused on women, but everything that we're talking about applies to women and men. It does, it is a human condition.
Absolutely. And yes.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying that. I use women for expediency more than anything else. I actually have people that I'm connected to, men that I'm connected to, that will do this kind of coaching with men. I feel like for me, my experience has been primarily with women. So I think that's probably important for me to be there and to stay there. But I do recognize that, as in book 4 behind me, Transcendent Men, Real Stories, I definitely recognize that men go through the same things. Absolutely. Empathically, absolutely, and otherwise. Yeah, for sure. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. So from your standpoint, your perspective of voice, what is the most important thing that empaths can do to support themselves in stepping into and expressing their cosmic mission?
So first and foremost, because I feel I want to say that this is, and this is funny because this came kind of into me at a point not very kind of around when you made this invitation. So I thought this was kind of interesting, but it is, being an empath is a gift. It is a gift for us. And I really do believe that we are chosen to be here. As you mentioned earlier, we are chosen to be here to further the healing of the planet and the raising of the planet's vibration. And whatever happens from there, which I in all honesty, I don't really understand yet, but that's okay. I will one day. So I think that's really important to hang on to. And why that's really important is that the most important thing for an empath to be able to just live the way that they care to live is taking responsibility for themselves. I used to call it, I'll just whisper this, so I don't know whether you're offended by language. I think you've probably heard this from me before, but I used to call it kicking your own ass. Yeah. Because women would come to me and say, oh, this happened and this kicked my rear end, and then that happened and that did too. So I really wanted to turn it around in their own language and say, you can do this for yourself. You don't have to, and you can do it in a way that honors you, which is kind of the bottom line, right? So you take responsibility for your experiences, whatever they are. If again, if they work, great. If they don't work, then change them. And it's not kind of that flippant, stop that behavior, stop doing that. There's lots of things that we do to be able to honor our souls, which really are, in my understanding, that's really who's speaking to us and bringing us into alignment. And the alignment for me is with your soul. So when we are not doing that energy management, when we are not taking responsibility for ourselves, then someone else is going to take it for us. And maybe not that someone as in a specific person. It could be our fear. It could be whatever negative emotion is happening at the time. That could be what's taking it over for us. So the number one thing is taking responsibility for ourselves.
Yes. Beautiful. So I know there's a guided process that you would like to take us through. And so I would
Yes.
love to turn the reins over to you for a few minutes. You take
Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited for this because I think I mentioned earlier that when we were chatting about this, that I had written a meditation, and then I kind of got this message, why don't you make it into a poem? I don't write a lot of poetry. I have some, but so no, okay, why not? So here we go. Now, I want you to understand too, listeners, that you can take any part of this poem and use them as journal prompts. So you can, just sit down with your journal and just write on each particular section. You can do that, and I think it would be really, really helpful. I am really big on journaling and journal prompts, things that are going to pull us out of our looking out there and have us begin to look in here. And so, yeah, I'm very big on journal prompts.
Wonderful.
So,
Okay.
okay.
I just wanted to add one thing to sort of set the energy field.
Yes.
That I love the idea of inviting people to take in your words as a transmission, right? Not as an intellectual, because we're so used to being trained like, oh, I'm in school, I have an assignment, now I have this thing to do, to just allow your body, the intelligence of your cells, your heart intelligence, your entire being to take in Dianna's words as a transmission first and foremost, and then allow whatever else wants to happen to come.
Thank you. The sensitive soul. I am a loving soul in human form, empathic and sensitive. I give myself permission to say yes to me as I meander through the embrace of growth and truth. I allow myself to feel into and resonate with these words. I focus on my heart space for a deeper understanding of my truth. My voice is my self-expression and can propel me to live my joy and bliss. I am whole exactly as I am, when and how I am. My soul has brought sensitivity and empathy into my field. I am worthy of the gifts I have been given by divine wisdom. Being in full appreciation of my gifts brings me in alignment with my sensitive soul. I am safe with my gifts and always have been. I always feel the warmth and healing of Source's pure white light. I always feel the sadness, the grief, the anger, the elation that belongs to others. I am not alone in my field. My voice reminds me that I choose to be here now. I validate my own understanding of the power to be myself. I am an energetic love leader. I am whole as I always have been. I am myself on this earth, and my wisdom is important to the collective. I have a reason for being here, a purpose to fulfill in this lifetime. I am worthy of that purpose, capable and willing. No matter what I've experienced up to now, I know who I am. I am the wise one, the one who can see, feel, and love me, my fellow humans, and this glorious planet. I choose to feel good in this moment and the moments ahead of me. I choose to embrace my gifts and be part of the transformation that awaits the world. I am love. I am loved. I am energy. All is well. Stay.
Aho. How beautiful. Thank you for sharing that gift from your heart. Those very poignant, powerful words. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to do that. I appreciate that.
Yes. So as we bring this to a close, I know that there's a free gift that you have to offer to the folks who are listening and watching. You've got a 30-minute teaching or class. Tell us about that.
So it's a 30-minute audio on owning your empathic gifts. I think, you know, as we talked about, there's so many empaths who don't realize that they're empathic. And once they do, they don't know what to do with that. So I thought that might be the best offering would be to just do an audio tape for them. And yeah, I hope that they enjoy it. I hope it really helps them step out and be place themselves right here. Oh, can't see, right here. Yeah, be who they are, be their truth.
Yeah. Yes, and you will be able to find Dianna's free gift on her speaker page on the Telesummit website. So Dianna, any final thoughts that you would like to leave people with?
If I could just for a second, I just wanted to say that I actually have a program that it's called Stand By Me, meaning Stand By My Soul. So it's an intensive 3-month program. The group that I'm with now wanted it to be another 3 months. So it's very intensive work, it's a very connected group. It's beautiful. It's beautiful exploration. It's beautiful transformation. It's beautiful learning how to use your voice and learning, you know, to be a conscious decision maker, you know, all those beautiful things. So if anybody has any interest in that, then please just reach out and I'll give you more details.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dianna. Thank you for all of the work that you do, because, you know, there's the Hermetic principle, as within, so without, as the one, so the many. And so as you do your individual work and help other people do their individual work, it supports the collective. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate that very much.